Shalom. I want to first start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 elect. I am Mayak Allah. And I think I'm going to call this lesson, I was leaning towards one title, but as I was coming up here to the park, I was thinking about something else and looking at all the things around me. And I think I want to probably call this No New Thing Under the Sun, because as I was walking up here and looking around, just looking at everything, no matter what form it appears in right now, it's nothing new to us. It's nothing new that's under the sun. It's always been here, whether in one form or another, whether it been some type of basic element, some type of liquid, some gas. You see things that are built up around us, whether it may have been a seed that turned into it grew into a tree, something built up by man, which the Most High allowed man to put it there and allowed it to be built up in a certain place. But there is nothing new under the sun. It's always been here. Everything we see around us has always been here in one form or another. And in some cases, even the things that we don't see. When I say that, I'm meaning, even though we can look and physically see man around us, we can't look and see his soul. That's something that's the Most High is responsible for, and he's the creator of all souls. But I just have a few precepts that I wanted to go through, and this probably won't be very long. But the first one that I wanted to go into was just as like I'm leaning towards the title, I want to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 11. I'll go to verse 9. It says, "The thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun." So when I was kind of looking through that, thinking about that verse, that's what was coming to my mind as I was looking around at all the things that are around us. Because, like I said, it's always existed here in one form or another. And even the souls have been regenerated and have come back. And I'm going to look up that word regenerated. Some say reincarnated. Well, I guess we could look up both words and just see if there's a difference in between the two. This is regeneration according to Google. Let me get the definition. And it says the action or process of regenerating or being regenerated, in particular the formation of new animal or plant tissue. Yeah, I'm gonna look up regenerate just because I don't like defining the word with the same word. Regenerate.
Here's the definition of regenerate: of a living organism. Regrow, new tissue, to replace lost or injured tissue.
And I'm looking at another definition. It says reformed or reborn, especially in a spiritual or moral sense. So to be regenerated, the soul can come back from one generation to another. Let's look up reincarnation. This is reincarnation, the rebirth of a soul in a new body. A person or animal in whom a particular soul is believed to have been reborn. So that's what occurs with the souls. The souls are reincarnated from one generation to another, from one body into another. And there's plenty of proof of that reincarnation exists in the Bible. Let's go to John 8:58. And in this instance, we're seeing that this is Yahweh Shai speaking. And I'm going to go to verse 57. It says, "Then said the Jews unto him," or the Israelites, "Thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham?" You know what, just to give that some, I'm going to start at 54. And it says, Yahushua answered, "If I honor myself, and my honor is nothing, it is my Father that honoreth me, of whom ye say that he is your power. Yet ye have not known him, but I know him, and if I should say, I know him not, I shall be a liar like unto you, but I know him and keep his saying. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Then said the Israelites unto him, Thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham?" And this is the point, verse 58, and says, Yahushua said unto them, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am." And this was kind of a bold statement for Yahushua to make. But what he was saying was that he, being the only begotten Son of the Most High Yahweh, he was there at the beginning when man was being created, when all creation was coming about. He was responsible. The Father gave him the order to do so, and he brought about all the living things. He brought about everything that we see in creation. And I can go to, I'm going to go to John chapter 1 and see if I can find something to back that up. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the Most High, and the Word was the Most High. So we can see that Yahawashi, and this Bible being the Word, it is of Yahawashi. So in the beginning was the Word. That means in the beginning was Yahawashi. He was there in the beginning. It says the same was the beginning. The same was in the beginning with the Most High. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. So we can see just from those few verses that Yahawashi was the one creating all these things in the beginning. And I'm going to go over to John chapter 9. Because this is just going to give further evidence on how the Israelites were aware and did know about reincarnation. And I just have a couple of precepts that show that they were aware of these things. Now this is still in the book of John chapter 9 and verse 2. And it says, and his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Now just from reading that verse, we can see that they wouldn't have asked, that the disciples wouldn't have asked Yahawashi such a question if they were not aware that reincarnation exists. Because how could a child that is yet born have committed any sin? He wasn't born yet, so he couldn't have committed sin at that point. But the reason for them asking that question is the simple fact that in a past life, that was this child born because he had sinned in his past life. And Yahawashi answered, neither has this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of the Most High should be made manifest in him. And I'm not going to read all of that, but the reason that man was born blind was just for that very moment, for the disciples to see that that Yahawashi would heal him. And that's, like I said, I won't go too far into that because I don't want to go off track of what I'm talking about here. And just another example of souls being born to the same bloodline and to the same seed. I'll further show you about Yahawashi, how he is the seed of David, and he would come back being in the same bloodline as David. And let's see if I can't find that. And this is Romans chapter 1 and verse 3. It says, concerning his son Yahawashi Hamashiach, our Lord, which was made of the seed of David according to the flesh. So we see that Yahushua comes from the seed of David. David having a son, King Solomon, would be Yahushua, born in the flesh, and would later come back reincarnated in the flesh of Yahushua. And I've just got just a few more examples here that I wanted to bring out. I'm going to go over to Matthew chapter 16. And Matthew chapter 16, verse 13, it says, when Yahushua came into the coasts of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. So they're asking, this is Yahushua asking the disciples, who does man say that I am? Now, the only reason he would be asking that is because they were all aware that reincarnation exists, and they wanted to know, and they wanted to know if he was one of the four previous prophets that had come before Yahushua. Another example is Matthew 17, and I'm going to drop down to verse 11. And it says, and Yahushua answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall first come and restore all things. But I say unto you that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. So what Yahushua is explaining right here is that Elias, who is Elijah, would be reincarnated also, and reincarnated coming back as John the Baptist. And they didn't recognize that John the Baptist had previously been Elias, because that's one thing about reincarnation, with the exception of Yahushua, who knew who he was in his past lives. You're not aware, you have no remembrance of those former things of who you were. And to prove that, I'm going to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 11. And it says, there is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of the things that are to come with those that shall come after. And I'm going to read that same verse in the NLT. It says, we don't remember what happened in the past, and in the future generations, no one will remember what we are doing now. So just like I said, just to further that, you have no remembrance of what your former lives were. But you best believe that you would be born of the same bloodline, because you're going to come from the same, you're coming from the same seed. And whatever it is that you're doing, or whatever you are at this present time, is what you were in a previous life. If you were a man before, a man before who was of the Father, you would come back and you would stand in that same lot, meaning that you would be of that same type of man, and that same of that same seed, of that same bloodline. So with reincarnation, it's not like you could be born in one generation to be a man and come back in another generation as a woman. You, there's no way that would happen, because, like I said, you would stand in the same lot. You would be of the same character as you were previously. So if a man was a teacher of the Most High's word, or a prophet, and we know that only the men of Israel are prophets, your soul couldn't come back as a woman, because women do not prophesy. Women are not teachers in the church. And I'm going to go, just to back that up, I'm going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 14. And we're going to go down to verse 32. And it says, "And the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets." So that means that if you were a prophet in your previous life, that when you're reborn in another generation, you will come back prophesying. You will be a prophet again. So those great men that you see of GMS, when you see them out there on the highways and byways, more than likely, and I would say that they were prophets in their previous lives. They're coming back in the same lot. So when you see these men, they are to be revered. They are to be respected. These men have come back from previous lives, and they're standing in the same lot, standing up to speak the words Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. And in the climate that we're living in today, these men are truly putting their lives on the line, making bold statements, and reading boldly from the word of Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. And just to further show you there's no remembrance of your former lives, or what your previous lot was, or what your previous life was, I'm going to go to John chapter 1. And I know I'm kind of jumping around here. And I'm going to go to verse 19. It says, "And this is the record of John, when the Israelites sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, 'Who art thou?' And he confessed and denied not, but confessed, 'I am not the Mashiach.' And they asked him, 'What then? Art thou Elias?' And he saith, 'I am not.' 'Art thou that prophet?' And he answered, 'No.' Then said they unto him, 'Who art thou? That we may give an answer to them that sent us. What sayest thou of thyself?' And he said, 'I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, Make straight the way of the Lord, as said the prophet Isaiah.'" So just to show you, even though John the Baptist was the same soul that had been sent in the prophet Elijah, John the Baptist wasn't aware of it. He didn't know it. And that's because, like I brought out earlier before, there's no remembrance of the former things. But as I said also, it shows you that he's standing in the same lot. He's doing the same thing that he did in his previous life. Even though he wasn't aware of it, that's what he was doing in his previous life. And just as and if you can receive it, and as the men of Great Millstone have taught me, which I believe also, the elder Abba Bivens, who in the 60s came and brought this new song and teaching us this truth, is the reincarnation of John the Baptist, who was the reincarnation of Elijah, because just as Elijah and John the Baptist did in their lives, Abba Bivens came and announced the coming of Yahushai and brought us this new song. I'm going to go over to Malachi. And I'm going to go up to chapter 4, reading verse 5. It says, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord Yahweh." And that is the generation and the time that we are in at this present time. Abba Bivens came and brought us this new song and brought this truth. And now today you have the prophets from the elder apostle Tahar on down, the great men of Great Millstone, who are bringing out this truth and spreading and announcing the return and the coming of Yahushai. And as I said earlier, you got to pay attention to these men and listen to what's being taught, because we are in those end days. But I'm going to go ahead and end this here. And just as I said, when you take heed, you should take heed to the things that are around you. And as I said, the men of Great Millstone, when they bring these truths out to you, because there indeed is nothing new that's under the sun. I'm going to give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKadosh, Shalom.